Hi, everyone. I'm Stan Mow, the Paranormal Yaker. My guest on today's show is Reverend Michael J.S. Carter, author of Alien Scriptures and the Holy Bible, and a frequent guest of History Channel's Ancient Alien series. I have also had the privilege of interviewing him previously about alien scriptures on this show. Today, I'll be talking with Reverend Carter about his book, A New World, If You Can Take It: God, Extraterrestrials, and the Evolution of Human Consciousness. Reverend Michael J.S. Carter, welcome to Paranormal Yaker.
Dan, it's a pleasure. I wish we could do it more often. I love to see you, and I was looking forward to today. And I'm hoping you're doing well this holiday season coming up, you and your family. And thanks for having me on.
Thank you, and the same to you and yours. A New World, If You Can Take It, takes the ancient astronaut theory to its next developmental step. You draw on the works of Erich von Däniken and Zecharia Sitchin and rightly point out that many in the UFO community believe that our ancient ancestors mistook extraterrestrial visitors for all-powerful deities. In your book, Michael, you build on this outlook, re-examining religious and spiritual philosophies, and demonstrate how off-world intelligences shaped early religious teachings. Could you elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned Erich and the late Zecharia Sitchin, who I had the pleasure of meeting when I was living in New York. He used to live up on the Upper West Side. Yeah, so I stand on their shoulders. You know, this is not new, maybe for more clergy to be talking about it. But it was hidden in plain sight, eyes wide shut. And it was all about the translations. And obviously, Zecharia Sitchin, with his knowledge of ancient texts, Sumerian cuneiforms, what have you, and just a few tweaking of translations from the Hebrew, obviously bearing in mind the Sumerian text, that we begin to see that our interpretation of the Bible may have been mistranslated because our ancestors didn't have the words to describe what they were seeing. This technology was fantastic to them. These beings appeared all powerful. And so they mistook them for who we would call God. And there were many extraterrestrials at the time in various parts of the earth. The Vedas unashamedly talk about extraterrestrial beings in the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, obviously, as we mentioned before, the Sumerian text. In our Bible and in the Quran, but let's stick with the Bible for now, we see that these beings are mistaken for gods. When you look at Yahweh, for instance, the things that he is asking folks to do, and our ancestors were caught in the middle of these wars between these ancient astronauts, and there were armies, and they were fighting each other, and there was jealousy, and there was riffraff. Now we have the words to describe the technology that they saw, the beings that they saw. And so now we have to start looking at the Bible, which is a beautiful book, lots of learning, lots of lessons. We cannot mistake that. But we have to look at it again with 21st century eyes.
You, Michael, asked the question, how can one reconcile spirituality and faith with the belief that ancient astronauts influenced the events depicted in humanity's greatest holy text, as you just spoke about? Happily for your readers, you answer that question. What is it?
I think, and I feel that once we come to grips, which we are slowly but surely with all the Senate hearings. Well, it's kind of slowed down now. We got wars and rumors of wars, and it's not on the front pages so much. But that once we grasp the theory that we live in a populated universe, that there's other demographics out there, some more advanced technically, maybe not spiritually so, then it has to affect our concept of God. I'm looking at these wars that are going on and that have always gone on. And when you look at these wars, outside of the resources, whether there's oil, whether there's geopolitical intrigue and shenanigans going on, which it always is, these are religious wars. And they're religious wars because a lot of these people are quoting Old Testament stuff, the Torah, New Testament things, which are very different. And so if your God is violent, if your God is vengeful, if your God is misogynistic, then that means you have to take those traits on, or you have to be apologetic for it. And so here we have the mess that is going on. It's not only about religion, and I don't believe religion is supposed to be denigrated. There are good things about religion, and there are things we need to hold on to. But when bad theology gets in the hands of people who are power hungry and a lust for power and prestige, we have the kind of things going on that we see now. And everybody is to blame. There's no innocence in this game, my friend. But we will wind up destroying ourselves, all because that we think we're right. And it's all because of this part of this that is based on religious theology and a misinterpretation of that.
In your writings, you explore how expanding one's spiritual consciousness may actually lead to the next step in human evolution. How so?
I love it. I love these questions, Stan. Well, I think and feel that the purpose of this great experiment of humankind, not just democracy or what have you, is about getting over and seeing through the illusion that we are all separate from one another. And so you can be the staunchest Christian, you could be the most observant Jewish brother or sister, whatever religion or philosophy you adhere to, they all talk about this notion of oneness. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to fight with one another and argue or that kind of thing. But the illusion that what I do does not affect you and what you do does not affect me or this planet we live on or the ecosystem, that is, if you want to use the word sin, which is, I'm using it as the Greek missing the mark, that is sinful. Not being able or willing to change. And I don't use that word often talking about sin, but call it what you will. That most of our problems are that I am separate from you and that what I do to you does not affect me. And I think that but if we change our consciousness and start really, and there are ways to do that, prayer, meditation, walking in the woods, communing with nature, spending the quiet time. There are many ways to do that. But once we do that, it starts to change the way we perceive life and ourselves. So it's not sexy. All genuine spiritual paths talk about it, but we're not encouraged to do that because what? We're too busy trying to make a living. We're too busy being distracted. We're too busy being manipulated. And we've got to see through it. Otherwise, there's an old saying, if you want to keep on getting what you're getting, keep on doing what you're doing. Einstein said the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I think that's what we're doing. But I also have hope because people are waking up. They really are. Human evolution is slow. It's glacial. But there are people, it's not going to be on Fox News, not going to be on MSNBC, but there are people out there who are saying, you are my brother, you are my sister, There's got to be another way for us to navigate this. And that gives me hope.
You, Michael, are an ordained interfaith minister and received your BA degree in letters from the College of New Rochelle, where you graduated cum laude. You also received your master's in divinity degree from Union Theological Seminary in New York City. Those credentials, to say the least, are quite impressive. At what point did you start questioning the validity of some of the dogma you were taught in your religious schooling, and what transpired in your life? What was the catalyst that led you to question that which you were taught?
I think when I left Baltimore, because that's where I was born and raised, and I moved to New York City. Now, I want to be clear. I was having those experiences when I first got to New York. But I just saw people who didn't, and knew people who didn't believe the same thing I believed, but they were authentic, loving, tender, kind people. And I'm thinking, what kind of deity will say you're going to go to hell because you don't believe? I just couldn't reconcile. It couldn't fit. And see, that's what happens. Either you leave religion, and sometimes you have to, or you just you leave your synagogue, you leave your church, you leave your mosque because you go, wait a minute, this is crazy. Or you just throw out the baby with the bathwater, which I almost did. There was one time in my life when I considered myself an atheist, and that was good too because I was growing. And you're supposed to wrestle. The unexamined faith is not worth having, just like the unexamined life is not worth living. And so that's when, and I was around a diversity of people, and I was going to the mosque. I was just visiting, going to, my first wife was Jewish, and so my father-in-law was Orthodox at the time, and we got along like this. But I was way past it then. I knew there was no way that my loved ones were going to this eternal barbecue. But I just could not reconcile. And so I said, I have to move on from this. And that's when, so I was in my mid to late 20s, early 30s. And then I found the Unitarian Universalist denomination. And of course, I'm an interfaith minister, so comparative religion was where I really got my bang for my buck. But then I found the Unitarian Universalist congregation, flawed like anyone is, but not perfect. But they gave me the freedom to think, to feel, to experiment without being condescending, without telling me I was a blasphemer, without telling me I was going to burn for eternity. And so standing on the shoulders of those professors and those ministerial colleagues, that's what got me going.
Should viewers of Paranormal Yaker want to buy A New World, If You Can Take It, God, Extraterrestrials, and the Evolution of Human Consciousness, how can they do that?
Listen, they can purchase all of my books on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles. You just type in Reverend Michael J. Carter or J.S. Carter. All the books will come up. I have a new book coming out. It's a book of sermons that should be out around Christmas time. It's called Enlightenment. And for those of you who are really, really churchy, just know that I'm in the Unitarian Universalist denomination, so I can preach a sermon over something, and we may not even use the word something I read in the Times, or definitely I could use a Bible verse or something like that. But it's a conglomeration of some really good talks I gave on philosophy, social justice, spirituality, race. And again, that should be out around Christmas time, and it's called Enlightenment.
Great, and I hope that I'm on your list to be contacted because I would love to interview.
Of course, you know I will do that, Stan. You know that. It's always a pleasure.
Reverend Michael J.S. Carter, I thank you for being my guest on Paranormal Yaker. As always, yakking with you has been a great experience.
Stan, you stay well. you and your family. I wish you a gentle peace and many blessings. And I'll shoot you an email as soon as I know this is coming out.
Thank you, and I wish wellness to you and yours. God bless.
Thank you, brother. God bless.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of my interview with Reverend Carter. So that you don't miss part 2, be sure to subscribe to my free YouTube channel. To do that, all you have to do is press the subscribe button on your screen.